Please let me know when it is time to start. Okay.
Sure, sir.
Yeah.
Another 2 minutes.
Yeah, sure.
Now it's 4 p.m., right?
Yeah, I thought so. That's why I asked.
Sir, so participants are ready. I think you can start.
So should I start?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Greetings and welcome to the second live session of the course NATE, NBA Accreditation, Teaching and Learning and Engineering. There are certain questions already which have been posed, and I'll be first answering them. I'm Rajnikant. And if there are any further queries, please post them in the chat box and we'll reply them as we go along. Or you can take the permission, unmute, and also ask the question directly. Okay. Uh, Before we start with the actual interaction session, let me repeat again, as we mentioned last time, that the NBA has now changed the SAR. There are some changes. The spirit remains same, but in terms of the details, there are certain changes. Instead of 10 criteria, they become 9 like that. And POs have become only 11 and some formulae have changed. So there are certain changes. So the material that has been covered in this particular course has now run out of its course. It's partly not valid anymore. Okay. But still, for tier 2, there is time till June. But otherwise, the content has to be upgraded to match the new SAR of the NBA, both for tier 1 and tier 2 institutes. Okay. With that provision, let us look at the queries that have already been posted. Let us begin with the first query. I set a question as derive swing equation for synchronous machines connected to an infinite bus. And for this question, I set the RBT level as 1. That is, remember, with the perception that the swing equation is already a knowledge base and the students have to remember how it has been derived and reproduce it in the exam. Whether I am correct or because the action verb derive is present, I should set the RBT level as 3. Now, as we mentioned in the course also, action verb is only a helpful guide. It is not really the ultimate. Sometimes we have seen that the same action verb can appear at different cognitive levels also. Something can appear at the understand level. It can also appear at analyze level. So action verb is not the final word. What really matters is what is the type of answer that is expected from the student, from the learner. That is the crucial one. So here, if the equation has already been derived in the classroom and there is nothing further that is expected from the student other than memorize it and reproduce it. That is, what is expected from the student is to simply memorize the derivation as done in the classroom and reproduce it in the as an answer. Then obviously it is at remember level. It is not at level 3 just because derive is present. If there are certain changes in the way the student is supposed to come out with that equation, or if there is something further in the question which demands higher cognitive skill from the student, that's a different story. Otherwise, if it is simply a reproduction of what has already been done in the classroom, then even though the word is derive is there, it is RBT level 1, which is remember, as you rightly observed. So your observation is correct, sir, and it is at level 1. Okay. Now let us go to query 2. In criteria 8.1, first year student faculty ratio, what is the proper method to take the number of faculty members considering the fractional load to calculate FY/SFR? Again, this is one criterion which has changed in the revised SAR. The revised SAR, the formula for calculating FY/SFR is different. It takes different weightages for the faculty from the natural sciences, physics, chemistry, maths, and other humanities related subjects, and the engineering subjects separately. And it takes a weighted sum. So the criterion is different. But according to the old one, all the faculty who are teaching the first year courses are to be considered. If a particular faculty member is completely devoted to the first year courses only, that is, all his workload consists of only first year courses, then it is considered as full load. On the other hand, if the faculty member is teaching first year courses as well as courses from higher semester, then the percentage of the time that the faculty member is devoting to the first year courses is considered as a fractional load. Like if the faculty is spending 50% of the time or allocated load, the university norm according to that, whatever is the allocated load, and depending of course on the position, whether he is a professor, associate professor, or assistant professor, based on that load, if 50% of the time only the faculty member is spending on first year courses, then it is considered as only 0.5 faculty. That is how the total faculty is computed. This is again, I repeat, according to the old SAR. In the new SAR, the mechanism is different, but that is how you calculate. Okay. So if the faculty member spends full time on the first year course, it is taken as full faculty member. Otherwise, the fraction that the faculty member devotes to the first year courses is taken as the fractional faculty number. That is how it is calculated. The question is incomplete, I think. Kindly send clear guide. What is that? Guide.
Actually, we received like this only in the form, sir.
Oh, okay, perhaps the query means that regarding the new SAR. So yes, certainly we'll try to update it. But otherwise, it's not clear. Clear guide is not clear. But if what you are meaning by this is that you would like some specific guidelines regarding the revised SAR, certainly we'll try to provide some further material. Okay. So if there is anything further, please post the query here if you are online. The next query is in criterion 5, there is a sub-criteria for visiting adjunct and professors of practice faculty. Yes. Is it necessary to have faculty from all the three categories? No, it's not mandatory. If you want, you can have. There is nothing which prevents you from having them, but it's not mandatory that you should have faculty from each of these three categories: visiting, adjunct, and process of practice. Any category is fine, one or more. One category, two categories, all the three, it's all fine. It's all up to what your department is planning to do. So there is nothing which says it is mandatory. These are all allowed. Now you can have one type or two types or all the three types of the faculty for under this sub-criterion. So it's not mandatory to have faculty from all the three categories. The requirement states a minimum of 50 hours of interaction per year. Yes, this 50 hours of interaction per year is per faculty. You cannot combine. For a single faculty member to be considered as belonging to or to be counted under this criterion of visiting adjunct or professor of practice, that specific faculty member must have had 50 hours of interaction in an academic year. Then only that person will be counted as part of the visiting adjunct or process of practice. You cannot club the amount of interaction spent by different faculty members together. So it is 50 hours per faculty member per year. And of course, in the revised SAR, they do permit a break between the semesters. In the old SAR, it was not there. But in the new SAR, they do permit a break. Okay. So it is each individual faculty member considered separately. Yes, please. Next. Okay. Yeah. There is one question in the chat box. We'll get to that. As we complete this, we'll get to that chat box question. Query 5, in criteria 2, there is a sub-criterion on it is related to the same one, but I will take it as we complete this. We will take the queries posted in the chat box. In criteria 2, there is a sub-criteria on SWAYAM, NPTEL, MOOC, and self-learning. The evaluation guidelines mention the number of students who have obtained MOOC certifications through such platforms and their mapping with POs and PSOs. Is there a minimum number of students required to clear the exam in a class of 60? The first thing is there is the SAR, neither the old one nor the revised one. It does not specify any specific number of students required to clear the exam, whether a class of 60 or less or more. It does not specify any number, but only it says that the students must be encouraged to take courses under these platforms, SWAYAM, NPTEL, or MOOC. In fact, you are supposed to encourage the faculty also to take these. Now, whether it is SWAYAM, NPTEL, or MOOC, or some other kind of approved self-learning platform, it must, of course, be approved by the department. A process must exist. That's all fine. But there is no specific number that is given. Now, depending upon how much encouragement the committee perceives the department is providing and how many students have gone through the entire course and cleared the examination, the committee will evaluate the kind of support that the department is providing to the students for self-learning through these platforms. The platforms available, their access timings, access criteria, the way mentoring is done, all these are taken into consideration in evaluating and awarding marks under this criterion. There is no specific number that is given. Additionally, is this evaluated year-wise, specifying a required number of students from each year, example, first year, second year, etc.? First of all, as I mentioned, there is no number specified at all, whether first year, second year, or anything. So there is no specific number, that is one. Two is, it does not specify that it should be in first year or second year or only third year, nothing like that. In fact, the students from all the years are supposed to engage in self-learning. The department is supposed to encourage students from all the years to engage in self-learning by registering for courses in SWAYAM, NPTEL, or MOOC. All the students are supposed to be active in self-learning. So the data that the department provides is evaluated by the team holistically, taking into consideration students from all the years and whether that is part of the credits earned already by the student or whether it is over and above that, what kind of facilities exist, what kind of mentoring exists. All these things are taken into account and marks are awarded based on that. There are no specific numbers. There is no specification of the years. Okay. Query 6, next query. What is a student portfolio? In the new engineering SAR, under the sub-criterion evidence of addressing sustainable development goals, it is stated that evidence should be provided in the form of a portfolio and made available during the visit. In fact, this concept of a portfolio has been there for very, very, very long time, almost since inception in departments like architecture. Basically, the portfolio is essentially a file, a folder containing the output of the student, but it is a curated one. That is, the teacher is supposed to look at it, evaluate it, write the comments, and approve it with the signature. And what does that file contain or what does that folder contain? It could be the assignments given by the faculty member. It could be any term papers, theme papers written by the student. It could be some specific design exercises carried out by the students. It could be models built by the student, either mathematical models or physical models. Physical models, there could be photographs which are included in the portfolio. Physical model also would be available in the laboratory or the assigned lab, whatever it is. In fact, any other kind of a work. But the important point is it contains this work of the student over a period of time. This over a period of time could mean one entire semester, that is from the initial period in the semester as the semester progresses. It could be over 1 year or it could be even over longer periods. So what happens is that it gives an evidence of the progress of the student in attaining those outcomes. So by going through that, because it's in a chronological order, we can see how the student is progressing through that learning activity, how the student is climbing the learning curve. Over a period of time, what kind of outputs are getting generated by the students and what kind of learning is evidenced or demonstrated by those artifacts. So the portfolio contains all the artifacts produced by the student over a period of time. Typically, even 30, 40 years back, the architecture students used to produce such a portfolio typically, but many other departments also were producing sometimes. But now they are specifying that it should be a portfolio. Now, what is the advantage? It gives a timeline history of the student's progress. So it can be used to evaluate the student more holistically. It can be used to submit it to a potential employer for that employer to assess what is the competency of the student. It can be submitted to a visiting team to allow them to assess the kind of support that the department is providing. So there are multiple uses. Typically, earlier the students were using it either to the faculty for the evaluation or to a potential employer to indicate what kind of competencies they have acquired. So it becomes an evidence of the progress of the student. So it's a wonderful mechanism to record this, and it also allows the student to do self-reflection. That is, after a certain time, the student can go through the portfolio and he himself or she herself can try to assess what has been her progress, her own progress or his own progress. So it allows reflective learning, what is generally called as reflective learning. That means you try to look back on what you have done and based on that, try to assess what has been the progress line of your learning. And that sometimes is quite useful in improving itself. Okay, so that is the idea of a student portfolio. And now they want that to be submitted for to visiting team if they want to assess. So essentially, it is a collection of artifacts produced by the student, but curated one. That means the instructor or the faculty has gone through that and made the comments, and it's a curated by the faculty. That is a student portfolio. Okay. Query 7. To gather feedback on POs and PSOs from the graduating batch, as well as for CO, PO mapping, CO attainment and PO, PSO attainment as per the new NBA SCR, the number of POs has been reduced to 11, correct? And the PSOs are now limited to a maximum of 3. Correct. The students graduating in 2025 and 2026 were admitted in 2021 and 2022 respectively. Yes. At that time of their admission, there were 12 POs and the number of PSOs ranges from 2 to 4. Can the number of POs and PSOs be changed in their final semester or in third year? Um, I would suggest perhaps this is a little bit tricky, but in general, whenever SCR changes, this comes up. So final year students, there is no point in changing the number of POs or PSOs. Even third year, there is no point because all their curriculum and everything has been designed based on the concept of 12 POs and 2 to 4 PSOs. So let them continue. Let them go through the process the way they have been accustomed to, and only those students who are now admitted in the current academic year, that is either 2024 August or 2025 August or July, whatever be your timeline, from the current batch, current as defined in the SCR, that is current academic year, from that batch onwards, you follow the new POs and PSOs. Otherwise, for the other batches, they have gone through based on the old SCR, let it continue. The any visiting team would know that there would be two sets of criteria being used. For the students who have been admitted earlier, this would be the old SCR kind of a thing. That is POs, PSOs particularly. For the new batch, it will be the current POs and PSOs. So our suggestion is that this is the logical way to do it. Okay. Yes, please. Next. Next query. What is a course portfolio? I think this we already have addressed. Some universities assign higher weightage to the course portfolio when calculating indirect attainment. The assessment tools considered under indirect attainment include the course portfolio, course survey, graduating student survey, alumni survey, and employer survey. Yes, whether you want to assign higher weightage or not is the department's decision. But certainly a course portfolio, as we just now mentioned, is a wonderful record evidencing the progress of the student over a period of time. So certainly it is a valuable record. But how much weightage you want to give, whether you want to make it higher than the others, that is the department's decision. After brainstorming, you will have to decide. But a course portfolio is certainly valuable. And what is a course portfolio? We just now addressed already. Okay. So it's a record. It's a kind of a folder of curated student artifacts, faculty curated student artifacts. Okay. Yeah, next please. What is the main purpose of what if simulation software? Okay, basically, as mentioned in the session, in the lecture session itself, there are many situations where changing some of the parameters, we would like to observe what is the influence or impact on the system's performance. Physically trying to modify these kind of parameters can be quite expensive. You want to change the gain of an amplifier, or you want to change the cutoff range of a filter, or you want to do something else, some other change of the parameter, or you want to change the amount of primary memory allocated. Whenever you want to change the parameter and see what is the performance impact, it becomes very difficult to do that physically. Not that it is impossible, but it is very expensive, and sometimes it can also be destructive. So the idea of, can you go back to the previous question? Simulation software. What if question? That is what we were answering. Okay. Sudha, yeah. Yes, exactly. So the main purpose of this what if simulation software is when you have a model of the system, particularly a mathematical model, you will be able to determine the impact of change in the parameters on the performance of the system without actually physically rebuilding the system. So the basic purpose of what if simulation software is to find out the performance of the system under different operating conditions, different values of the parameters, different configurations, different ways of interactions between the parameters and all in a very, very inexpensive and fast way. That is the main purpose, and it's used quite extensively in most of the simulation softwares. Okay, that is the purpose of what if simulation software. Yeah, next query, please. If one faculty has taken two subjects in 2 semesters of total 50 hours, then there's no problem. It's not required that in both the semesters, the faculty should teach the same subject or same course. It's not required. In one semester, in the odd semester, the faculty could have taken one course. And in the evening semester, the faculty could have taken another course. That is fine. As long as the total interaction amounts to 50 hours and as long as a process is followed, that means all the things like proper qualifications, AICT approved qualifications, proper selection process, interview, all that. As long as all these criteria are met and this true faculty has engaged the students for 50 hours totally in an academic year, that is acceptable. It's not necessary that the faculty member should take the same course in both the semesters. It is perfectly fine to for the faculty member to take two different courses in the two different semesters. That's all right. Nothing wrong. Whether the number of mission statements of institute and the department should be the same. If the mission statement of the institute are 4, can we have mission statements for department as 3? Whether it will create a problem while mapping. The mission statement of the institute comes first. Vision and mission of the institute comes first, right? After following a proper process, the entire institute arrives at the vision and mission of the institute. Now, the vision and mission of the department must be compatible with those statements. That means it must be derived from the vision and mission of the institute. It must be compatible with that. That's all is the requirement. It's not required that the number should be same. It's not required that all the mission statements of the institute must be covered. No. All that the committee is looking for or the SCR is looking for is that the vision and mission of the department are derived taking into consideration the vision and mission of the institute and the department's own limitations, resources, capabilities, and all that. It arrives at its own vision and mission. So the only requirement is that the vision and mission of the department must be compatible with the vision and mission of the institute. That is the only requirement. So if the mission statement of the institute has 4 components, it is perfectly all right to have only 3 as the components for the department. There is nothing wrong. It will not create any problem. And the mapping is only within the department from the mission and PEO. What is the minimum criteria for being an assistant professor? And is it uniform throughout Indian University? Wow, a very, very tricky question. See, the AICTE has given the guidelines which holds for all technical institutes. It's very clear what the AICTE guidelines are very clear. But unfortunately, in India, the technical, in fact, not only technical education, all the higher education scenarios are extremely diverse. Different universities have different kind of exceptions given, and there are different clauses which make different kind of um, admission norms, criteria, the promotion norms and all. In fact, even career advancement scheme, all these things, the central bodies, that is AICT and UGC, have certain definitions which are very clear. Now, whether a particular university is following them exactly as specified there, or whether it is giving certain exceptions, you have to work out based on the university to which you are affiliated. So basically, there is no clear answer. Like, for example, for an assistant professor, a PhD, as per the criteria at the national level, it is a must. And there are several institutes where it is now being adopted that even an assistant professor must have a PhD. But at the same time, there are several universities which have relaxed this criterion, and sometimes they are permitting a kind of registration itself to be allowed as a criterion and all that. So my suggestion would be, instead of looking for an answer from a forum like this, interact with your university. The best is talk to your registrar or whoever is the competent authority in the university and find out whether the particular person whom you are considering satisfies the criteria for being considered as an assistant professor. Okay. Otherwise, the standard answer is that AICTE norm. Whatever AICTE says is supposed to be the criterion for any position that way. Assistant professor, associate professor, or professor, in any criteria, principal, librarian. For all the positions, AICT has clearly given the qualifications. Okay. For all kinds, sports officer. For all positions, the AICT has specified what should be the qualifications. Okay. If you see the process approval handbook, it very clearly specifies them. That is the one which is to be followed. But as I mentioned again, there are several exceptions. So the best thing is to get in touch with your university. Okay. Any other questions, or we have reached the okay. Could you please highlight more details on program articulation matrix and about curricular gaps? Okay, fine. See, what we are trying to say is that every course has certain outcomes. That is at the lowest level. What we are saying is the unit is a course. So when the student completes the course, certain competencies are acquired by the students, which we are calling as course outcomes. Because of these capabilities, the student is able to attain certain outcomes or capabilities at the program level. Correct? Where a number of courses you do. So if you combine all these abilities and capabilities, certain competencies at higher level emerge. These are supposed to be the program outcomes and program specific outcomes. So in fact, how does the student acquire program outcomes and program specific outcomes? By getting certain capabilities or competencies. How does the student attain them? By doing courses. So essentially, the POs and PSOs are attained through courses. That is the basic idea. So now, how these course outcomes are related to the program outcomes and program specific outcomes, that we would like to know. For example, if a student does a particular course on linear algebra, what kind of abilities the students gets? And what does it mean for the student to have those abilities when it comes to program level outcomes? For example, if the student is able to analyze a problem because of this, obviously that is not related to a PO which is on environmental awareness. It is related to some other PO, maybe PO2. So what we have to do is essentially see what is the relation between a course and the program level outcomes, POs or PSOs. So one single glance, one single table, which shows this kind of relationship between courses and program outcomes and program specific outcomes is what is called as program articulation matrix. So what happens is that in one single table, you are able to capture the essence of your entire syllabus or curriculum, if you want to be more accurate. So you are able to see which courses are addressing which POs and PSOs. So for a particular PO or PSO, if you look into the column, seeing which are the courses which are addressing that PO or PSO, if there are not many entries, if that column is mostly empty, that means that there are not really many courses which are addressing that particular PO or that particular PSO. It should not be happening really with the PSO because department is designing PSOs, but in general, the principle is that. So what happens is that if the matrix is sparse, that means that the curriculum is not addressing many POs or PSOs. That is the essential idea of the program articulation matrix. Even for department also, this is quite helpful because in one glance, you are able to look at the entire 4-year program and see how you are able to address the POs and PSOs, of course. So when you see a column which is very, very sparse, then you know that there is a gap in terms of the curriculum. There is no course in the curriculum which is addressing that PO adequately. So you can think of what kind of activities the department should undertake in order to bridge that curriculum gap, in order to bridge that inadequacy of the curriculum in meeting that particular PO. So those could be additional short-term programs, workshops, or some other kind of activities that the department plans. But essentially, the important point about all these activities is that they are very intentional and focused. That means you are doing a particular activity in order to bridge a particular gap. That means you must decide what are the POs that this activity should address. If you are doing a workshop, it must be clear which gaps this workshop is to be addressed, to address. That means you must indicate which curricular gaps this workshop is proposed to fill. So the POs and PSOs which this workshop is addressing must be present. This mapping must be done. So this mapping shows that we are able to address that curricular gap. To the extent that we are able to address most of the curricular gaps, our curriculum will be more holistic and you will be able to meet the POs and PSOs to a large extent. That is the basic idea, okay, of program articulation matrix and the curricular gaps. You can go through the lectures once again and it should be fairly clear on what this means, okay. What is expected in faculty competencies in correlation to program-specific criteria? Basically, PSOs are in addition to the POs. So these things the department is arriving at to say that the students of our department, after the completion of 4 years of undergraduate study, would have these abilities, these competencies. These outcomes would be attained by the students. So these are department-specific outcomes, PSOs. Now, in order for the students to attain those competencies, the department must be offering courses which really provide those kind of abilities to the students. So your courses, core courses, must be really mapping well to the PSOs. Otherwise, how are the PSOs to be achieved? So when you design your PSOs or curricula, in fact, they go hand in hand together. They must be perfectly aligned to each other. Your core courses, the department core courses and the PSOs, they must be perfectly aligned to each other. That is fine. But now these courses have to be delivered. These courses have to be delivered in the department. That means you must have faculty who can really deliver these courses. Plan the instruction, plan the assessment, complete the classroom activities and everything else. That means your faculty must have competency to deliver these courses. So when you look into the requirements for delivering a particular course, and when you look into the competencies of your faculty, the department faculty, again there must be a match. For every course, you must be having adequate number of faculty who will be able to deliver that course. So that is the expectation. And the best way of planning for that would be for the department to make a matrix of the faculty competencies and the competencies required to deliver the core courses and show that there is a nice match in the matrix. Again, if the matrix is very sparse, then we know that the department has a very nice vision, mission, and a very nice curriculum and all, but it is unable to deliver. So that is the idea. There must be a nice match between what is required from the course perspective and the faculty that you have. That is the competency requirement. How and through which means we can increase the awareness of vision and mission and PU among stakeholders. There is nothing like one specific activity, but obviously one certain thing is that you need to have a good number of interactions. Frequently meet them, course, depends upon which stakeholders you are having. If they are students, you can meet them much more frequently. If there are external stakeholders, then it will be less frequent, but still you meet them at least once in a semester. You try to meet them, try to discuss with them, hold brainstorming sessions, talk to them, and ensure that they get enough publicity on your websites. Ensure that you have enough publicity in the department notice boards and other places wherever they are visible. Essentially, increase the visibility of these statements. In all key places, ensure that these statements are all mentioned, vision, mission, PEOs, and maybe a nice, attractive notice boards where they are displayed well in an artistic fashion and in eye-catching position, and ensure that whenever they visit the website, these pop up. Or perhaps if there are written books in which the students write the answers for the internal assessment, maybe on the inner covers or something, you can print them. There are multiple ways. Essentially, the idea is that the more and more visibility of these things happens in interactions as well as in media, the more likely that the stakeholders become better aware of the vision, mission, and PEOs. So you have to have a multi-pronged approach. There is nothing like one single mechanism for doing it. A multi-pronged approach, which will include physical interactions as well as media exposures. That's how you need to do that. CO is of RBT level, say 2, and it is mapped to PO1, which is at RBT level 3. It is fine. See, if a particular PO is at level 3, it does mean that not only level 3, but all the lower levels are also addressed. That means if a student has an ability at level 4, for example, it automatically means that the student also has the abilities at lower levels. If the student is able to apply, it essentially means that the student first remembers, and the second, the student understands it, understands how to apply those things. So the lower levels are also implied. So the CO, which is at a lower level, does have a bearing to the outcome, which is at a higher level. Okay, a level 3 outcome certainly has a relation to level 2, even level 1. But you cannot call the mapping strength as 3. Mapping strength is weaker. Perhaps 2 mapping strength is. But they are related. In fact, that is why even assessment, we say that even if the CO is at a particular level, we can have a very small number of assessment items, questions at a lower level also. Not too many, that would defeat the purpose. But say about 20%, 30% of the questions. That is, if the question is for 20 marks, let us say about 6 marks, perhaps I'm saying, just only a random number I'm saying, 6 marks or 7 marks or 5 marks, they can be at a lower level of RBT. That's okay, fine, no problem. Only thing is, if predominantly all the questions are at a lower level, then it is not acceptable. Or if the lower level outcome is mapped to the higher level outcome as mapping strength of 3, that's also troublesome. Otherwise, it is fine. There is nothing wrong with that. Yes, please. How can we design an effective tool to calculate COPO attainment? Are there any existing tools or softwares available that can be customized for this purpose? Yeah, it's basically it's an algorithm basically. The way you are calculating COPO attainments, it's basically an algorithm. You have to provide the data, and then even an Excel sheet can calculate it. You can write a good macro under Excel that can calculate, because essentially it's a straightforward algorithm that you are designing. Once you are clear which are the inputs which go in and how you are calculating the attainment values, it's simply an algorithm. So even a good Excel macro can do it. But there are many existing tools, commercial tools. Of course, commercial tools means they cost money, which are available, and they do provide some kind of reasonably wholesome packages, which includes from the entry to the exit of the student, all the aspects of the career, including the outcome-based education processes. But the quality of that, whether it is acceptable to you, suitable to you, whether the pricing is suitable to you, whether the cost or the subscription model, economics of it is acceptable to you, that you will have to figure out. But there are tools available, there are companies available, and if you just do a Google search, you will find so many companies in India which offer those tools. You can do your own tools also, and as I said, a good Excel macro also can do that. But there are certainly different opinions. Like our professor feels that you should always entrust it to a commercial vendor because they can maintain it well whenever there are changes. But there are also departments which think that they can manage themselves. And there are institutes where they have a separate IT support wing, commercial IT support wing, with paid employees specifically for that who look after all these things. So there are multiple solutions, but essentially, as long as the process is clear, the algorithm is clear, building a tool is not a very difficult job. Okay. What are the job and consultancy opportunities for someone who wants to become a specialist in accreditation? Yes, there are certainly many companies in India as well as abroad also who are interested in academic experts who are able to get into the role of a consultant for academic activities. Because the IT companies, which are essentially trying to build the packaged solutions to the problems of an institute. And when I say it's just never only accreditation, when the package is built, it is usually multiple roles. In fact, entry to exit, that is how they try to decide. And they would certainly need people who are familiar with this, who can help with them. But it's very difficult to say with respect to any job how many opportunities are there. It is, the opportunities are there. It all depends upon how useful you are to them, what value you bring to the table for the company. But yes, certainly there are opportunities and openings available, and one could get into that. Okay. Suggest some tips. Essentially, what I would say is expertise. Be familiar both with the way packages are built, their constraints and the modifications, and particularly how maintainable software, reliable software, robust software has to be built, how one should build flexibility into the software system. One should be that. That means essentially one should be good with software engineering, and one should be extremely thorough with all the subtleties of the accreditation process itself. As we mentioned several times in the course also, SCR is fine, but there are several practical issues when you try to implement SCR. Each institute will have some specific problems of its own. There are plenty of practical issues. Any department head or, in fact, even a faculty member who has gone through the accreditation process would know the number of doubts that crop up when you start filling up the SCR. The SCR says something, but then the reality is, in general, some variation. Okay, like someone says 50 hours of this engagement. If someone has done 49 and a half hours, for whatever reason, that 30 minutes is there. What do you do? The records are different. See, these are all small things, but there are several such issues. So you should be good with what is the reality, what is the practical way of doing things and all that. That's all I can say. Yeah, that's the question. Please give some example questions for RBT 4. Okay, apply, analyze. Very difficult, as I mentioned, it cannot be a question which can be answered in a 10-minute or 15-minute kind of a written examination, but it needs a case study and it's very domain specific. Let us assume that there is a small subsystem which you have designed. Let us say, sorry, I'll try to give in computer science first, then I'll try to think of something else. There are many examples being worked out and a document is getting ready. But let us say there is a subsystem which is being used in a bigger software system, okay, like some module which we are using. Okay. Now that module has certain space and time requirements. Okay. Now that has an influence on the overall performance of the system. Now you would like to replace that module with some other module. And that module has a different time and space requirements. Now, what is the impact of changing this module on the overall performance of the system? That means you are not asking about the performance of the subsystem in isolation. You would like to know what is its impact in the context of the overall system. Now that becomes analyze, because the answer depends upon understanding both the subsystem as well as the overall system. So essentially, the analyze requires you to break up the larger system into smaller pieces and see how they are related to each other. That is the idea of analysis. Okay. From your domain, you can come out with your own questions. As we said in the website, Professor Rao will be putting up several other examples of analysis. And now that AI tools have become very popular, you could also try something like Gemini or ChatGPT or Grok for some questions at RBT level 4. It seems to be quite an interesting experiment. Several of my friends are doing that, trying to ask ChatGPT for questions at level 4 in their domain. Of course, some of the replies are not very good, but some seem to be quite interesting. So I think faculty also should now start paying attention to AI. Yes, please. Yeah, I think we are reaching the 4:55. So a person who completed their PG degree online or through distance education, as per the AICT's current norms, no. Distance education is not accepted for engineering degrees. MCA is accepted, but not for engineering degrees as of now. Okay. Of course, if the AICT changes it, then we would know, but currently no. I hope you are all getting well set for the final exams, and I wish all of you the very best of learning and the very best results in your final exam also. And we both are happy that you are able to complete it well. And regarding NPTEL exams and all, it's all same. Objective type of questions, there's no difference. And they would put it on the website very clearly. There are multiple choice questions and that kind of a thing. Or objective type of questions, fill up the blanks and things like that. It's a well-known pattern. I mean, it's available on the NPTEL websites also. And for any further queries, you can write to NPTEL. They would give an answer. Okay, that's not a problem. And I hope all of you will do well. And more importantly, all of you will be able to implement these ideas. And again, we are sorry that the NBA change has occurred while the course is running. But we do hope to come back with the new SCR in mind. And at that time, you should be able to really meet again the learners. So once again, we wish you the very best in all your learning activities as well as in the final exams. Thank you on behalf of Professor Rao and myself for your interest, and has been very engaging 1 hour of interaction with all of you. Thank you for all your nice words.
Okay, sir, shall I wind up?
Yeah, I think we can wind up. I think if there are no further questions, I think we will end up. Once again, thank you all for your wonderful interactions, and wishing you all the very best. Thank you. And thank you, NPTEL team, for your kind support. Thank you, Sudha. Okay.
Thank you.